It's about to.
Okay.
Buffalo After Dark is proud to recommend I Barbecue for You. Pre-orders are suggested by calling 716-880-7667. I Barbecue for You, Buffalo's new barbecue destination.
Just move the coyotes. Don't do another expansion.
Right? It would never crossed my mind. So somebody called the house when I was out mowing the grass.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Yes, sir.
Holy shit, your face is like purple.
Are you still up? Now in our 5th season, it's Buffalo After Dark.
Welcome to Buffalo After Dark, everybody. It is Saturday night. We actually got a little Saturday night special. So it's Fortnite. So it's April 19th. Tomorrow is Happy 420 Day for all those who celebrate weed in all of its forms. But of course, got Hanson here with us, man. How's it going this week?
Things have been good this week. And first off, I just want to say Happy Easter to you and your family.
Yep.
You know,
me too.
tomorrow is 420.
Yes, it is. And those who like to partake in a little bit of cannabis, just be responsible. We're not going to tell you what to do or whatever. But yeah, same to you. Happy Easter to you and your family as well. And certainly we would have been here Wednesday night. But just a couple little technical things had to deal with. And I just want to say thanks to the guys at Redline Auto for, of course, doing a good job with my car as always. And yeah, we're here Saturday night. And it actually kind of worked out better because now we can talk a little bit more about the playoffs this week.
Well, yeah, because I was like, all right, you ready to go Wednesday? You're like, nah, my car broke down, guy. I'm like, God damn it. Every 2 weeks, there's always something wrong. But usually you come through. So I can't bitch and moan too much.
Yeah, I mean, and actually, knock on wood, my 2012 Jeep Grand Cherokee with over 201,000 miles on it, it's actually been really good. So only major things I've had to do with it is just an oil cooler, which was recently, and then, I mean, all it ended up being was just a dust shield, but, I mean, it was just making noise, just had to have it looked at. But other than that, everything else is knocking on wood, and hey, if anyone's got a relatively newer Ford Expedition that they're looking to part with, let me know. I might be interested. So we'll see what happens. I want my big ass SUV.
Well, you've been saying that you've wanted one for a while.
Yeah, and you've ridden in 2 of them I've rented, so it's that I can tell you. So
there's that.
Yeah, the Wagoneer with like the frickin' Hurricane engine that I was able to punch over 400 horsepower out of, and then of course last summer the Ford Expedition I drove down. So
Yeah, you did last year when you came down to see me and we went to Philadelphia. Yeah, I remember that.
As I say, just random question: you like the Wagoneer more or the Expedition?
What?
The ones that I drove the last 2 years, did you like riding in the Expedition more, like I drove last year when we went out, or did you like the Wagoneer the year before?
Pretty straightforward question. I don't fucking know. I mean, I don't know anything about cars. I just know that.
I just remember the Wagoneer. You're like, oh shit! When I ended up flooring it at that one light.
That was like 2 years ago.
Yeah. Well, hey, it had 400 horsepower. I had to floor it at least once. So.
Well, yeah. That was for you to just be a fucking show off like you always are.
Oh man. Well, I will say it's like I think the Expedition won that battle, but anyways, of course, if you want to join us, we are live on YouTube and we're also live on our Facebook page. And if you want to also look at previous episodes, including last week when we had our mock draft, go to Spotify. We have the episode up and running, so certainly feel free to check that out. But in the meantime, a lot of the show today is going to be all about hockey because there has been a lot of news that's come out, especially in the last 48 hours. And of course, one of the big things we want to talk about is we'll get into the Stanley Cup playoffs in a bit, and we'll talk about some brackets and a couple different things, but there are definitely some coaching changes coming because big news today, Peter Laviolette was fired, and of course, the Ducks decided to part ways with Greg Cronin.
All right, let's start with Cronin because like this one is pretty obvious. I think anybody that watches the Anaheim Ducks knew that Cronin was not going to survive this season.
Mhm.
I mean, the whole idea behind hiring him is to be, he was kind of their Don Granado. He's a developmental coach. He's not a full-time, hard-nosed NHL coach. He's not your typical John Tortorella. He's not your typical Craig Berube or any of those guys, like, or Paul Maurice for that matter. He was more just like supporting the young guys that basically coached them how to be pros. He wasn't the guy moving forward. So Cronin, I could see him getting an assistant coaching job elsewhere, but I don't see him being a head coach in the NHL, at least for another 10 years or so, if a team is fortunate or desperate enough to hire him. That's how I look at this.
Yeah, and the writing's been on the wall for him for a while, and right now it's very straightforward. The Ducks have underperformed the last couple seasons. There's been no surprises there, and literally, especially with how tight the West is, and with some of the teams that you have out there, like the Kings, you have the Oilers, you have the Avs. Vegas, of course. I mean, even
Winnipeg.
Winnipeg, which we're going to talk about them in the playoff bracket in just a little bit. Hell, even Utah was playing a lot better than expected this year. So when you look at the teams that are out there and how the Ducks compare, it's just the writing was on the wall. I mean, everyone knew he was going to be gone.
Yeah. Oh, before I forget, speaking of Utah, I got very lucky this week because I was fortunate on NHL.com because of the name change that's coming soon. I was able to grab a Utah Hockey Club jersey in my size.
Nice. Good stuff.
So that is going to be a hell of a collector's item.
Yeah, and actually it reminded me I might have to take a look, see what's out there. So
You better get it now because they're not going to have it for much longer.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that'll be like a one season and done. So of course I'll have to take a look at that. But yeah, writing was on the wall for Anaheim altogether. And then of course the obvious one came today. Peter Laviolette got canned by the Rangers, and especially when we looked at what happened last week, where he just decided, I ain't gonna bother talking to you guys after the loss. I mean, the writing was on the wall. He was done.
Oh, dude, the fucking Rangers were horrible this year. And how is it that a team like the New York Rangers that were so good a year ago, the season prior, they were, I think, the number one seed in the East. And if I'm not mistaken, didn't they win the President's Trophy?
I think they did, and then they fell that far in just a year.
Oh my God, dude. The Rangers went from one of the best teams in the league for pretty much majority of my 20s in my young adulthood.
Yeah.
I'm now in my 30s, and the Rangers are really going down the shitter. It's crazy that the New York Rangers are even in this category. And 1 year, mind you, 1 year, and Ranger fans are falling like it's the worst thing to happen to them. Like, their situation is the worst.
It's far from the worst. But I will say, though, how does Chris Drury still have a GM job?
That's a great question, because I have no fucking clue.
Me either.
I mean, Chris Drury, to me, can be a good GM, but I feel like he's really handled some certain situations very poorly. I've also heard some rumors about James Dolan being heavily involved with the management and the, executive decisions with the New York Rangers, and let me tell you something else.
Dolan's an idiot.
Well, yeah, obviously. I mean, the fucker literally cut off Cablevision, for providers, for anybody who's a fan of the Knicks or the Rangers a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And then they were able to come to an agreement, and then it's like, all right, you guys can have it back. It's like, go fuck yourself. Literally. I got rid of Cablevision many, many years ago, but that's not the point. So not only did Peter Laviolette get fired, Bill Housley also got fired.
Nice. Nice. We have a second firing.
And there's also talks of Michael Pekka being let go.
Interesting. All right. So that brings us into the next situation. Of course, the Sabres shit the bed again this year, and it's actually worse than last year, where we were 5 points further out. And then, on top of it, Of course, it's the end of the year press conference. You know how it goes. Basically, Kevin Adams, oh, we didn't do enough to get into the playoffs. Oh, there's a lot of hope for this organization. Oh, we're going to stay the course and we're going to take our time and we're going to develop these people. Kevin Adams, shut the fuck up, number one, because you suck as a GM. You should have never been a GM, and all you are is Terry's yes man to begin with. And number two, even Jason Zucker said hope is shit. He even called him out. And quite honestly, Matthias Samuelson, if he has an A on his sweater next year, then that should never happen because Zucker is way more of captain material than Samuelson.
Samuelson is not even a question at this point.
Get rid of him at this point. I mean, he sits out half the season anyways with being injured.
I mean, he did hurt his vagina not that long ago.
Yeah,
I mean,
again.
I mean, if I'm being
just like every
100% real, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, fuck, dude. I mean, Samuelson sucks. Darlene is probably the only one, and Tate Thompson. He's probably those two players alone are probably the only two players on the Buffalo Sabres that are actually worth it as of right now.
I'd even throw in JJ Peterka. He had a pretty good season.
And there's speculation that he might not get signed, which is a really bad sign and really bad management skills by Kevin Adams. But I do want to say something real quick about this ordeal because we are talking about them. Is that there are two comments. The first one is from Mike Harrington, and the second one is from Sabres legend Matthew Barnaby, and both of them are about Terry Pegula. Harrington said, I've always felt Terry doesn't want a real NHL guy in there giving him the mutuals on everything he's done wrong and is doing wrong so he gets his route. And somebody, regarding that comment from Ben Mathewson, who I believe covers the Oilers, he said, I've heard nothing but good things about Steve Coelli, whatever his name is, the CEO of the Sabres and the Bills. And he said, so I'm sure he's doing a fine job, but it's crazy to me to have one person in charge of two different franchises like the Pegulas have done for years and making an NFL guy figure out an NHL team for a little while still being a full-time NFL guy is nuts. And that's going back to my Harrington comment.
Yeah.
And Matthew Barnaby stepped into the light. And he said, quote, Terry wants puppets, and they tried to control it and got rid of people who gave him contrary advice to what they thought. And this isn't a guess on my part. I know 1,000%.
There we go. And this is what we've been saying for how many years on this show since we started?
I mean, we both said that Terry Pegula is a fucking clown. I don't care if the Bills are good. The dude is a fucking prick. Okay? God bless him for building that new stadium. But trust me, he didn't want to build that new stadium.
Right.
He
was forced.
He was forced to because the NFL would not allow him to move the Bills. Because that was an agreement that was in his contract when he bought the team.
Right.
Back in 2014.
And if he attempts to move the Bills with the new stadium, he has to pay the entire demolition cost to take down the new stadium.
I mean, on the contrary, though, 14 years is beyond unacceptable, for one. And an owner having to lose for this long, who's no closer than year one to the playoffs, is the biggest disaster in the history of sports Buffalo. And get real experts to run the team and get the team the fuck away from him as far as possible.
Right. It's like the one time, and I even look at this. When Terry first bought the team, Ted Black was president of hockey operations. What happened to Ted Black when he disagreed with Pegula? You shit can't. You no longer belong here.
Well, remember last week we were talking about it very briefly on how, or it might have been 2 episodes ago, we talked about how Terry Pegula is one of the worst owners in pro sports, and yet he's like a freaking communist because of the fact he treats everybody like crap.
Right.
Yeah, that's literally like Bob Nutting and Dick
sweet
Montford.
Jesus. Bob Nutting has his own problems to deal with in Pittsburgh right now.
I mean, Ted Stepien was the newest one that came out. Ted, you ever see that video from Your Name Tree?
I haven't, but...
Oh, dude. You, do me a favor. I don't know anything about basketball, but you need to watch it. It's very interesting, and I'll tell you why. There's a guy in the 80s, by the way, who sounds very eerily similar to Terry Pegula, of all people. His name was Ted Stepien, and he was the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers in the 80s.
Okay. I do remember some stuff about Stepien because I know that was like around the time think it was before Gordon gunned, and then it was before they ended up getting their current leadership. But I know Gund was an absolute jackass of an owner, and I've heard bad stuff about Stepien. So
Mm. Well, also the Gunn brothers also reincarnated the San Jose Sharks, or they brought back the Oakland Seals in
right,
hockey. So I can't give too much crap to the Gunn brothers.
right, yeah,
But
true story.
yeah, but I will say there is a lot of information that has come out in the last 48 hours or couple of days or so about Pagula, but not just about the team moving forward, but about the future at KeyBank Center.
Yeah, so that's another thing that's come out also because of course Erie County is not renewing the lease to the KeyBank Center. They're getting out of the stadium business altogether, just like they're doing with the new Highmark Stadium. They're getting out of it. So now control of the KeyBank Center or the ownership or everything is going to go back to the city of Buffalo, which city of Buffalo can't handle it because they don't have the money to do it. So now does Terry Pagula buy the KeyBank Center outright? Or does someone else come in to manage it? And that's going to be the interesting question because here's the thing. The KeyBank Center right now, the renovation cost, you're looking at up to about $300 million to redo everything that should have been taken care of by the Sabres all these years. It was in their lease agreement. They were supposed to handle renovations. They were supposed to handle upgrades. They didn't do shit.
No,
Except for a
they
new
didn't.
scoreboard this year. They did do a new ribbon board in 2019, and that's only because the parts were no longer available. Same thing with the scoreboard. Then the last time before that, they did a scoreboard in 2007. And then before that, I mean, the seats are all original, and half of them are all broken apart, especially on the 300 level. So it's like, yeah, they've done some upgrades with the locker rooms, and they've done some basic things, but they haven't kept up with what modern arenas do. So then, of course, you keep deferring all that stuff, and of course, the in-rink entertainment sucks, and you've seen that. They have like shit entrances. They do crap for entertainment. It's all basic stuff. It's not like when you go to Vegas or when we went to Seattle, how they did that really cool 3D ice projection show, like right before the opening face-off and the introductions. Basically, the Sabres don't give a shit about the fans, and they want more money.
Yeah, so just to be specific, so Mark Poloncarz, or Poloncarz,
Poloncarz, yeah, he's going to
Yeah.
be gone after this year anyway, so.
yeah, he basically said the county does not wish to own liability issues or have to pay for maintenance any longer, which is transitioned to we're a bunch of fucking cheap wads and we don't want to
Yeah.
do shit.
Well, he also pissed away a lot of county money, but that's a totally separate story.
Yeah, and Mayor Chris Scanlon. Wait, I thought Byron Brown was the mayor.
No, he resigned. He took a state job. So Chris Scanlon is the acting mayor until this election, and then it'll either be him or someone else new that's coming in.
Okay, well, and either way, so Chris Scanlon was not aware this was the county's plan. Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, as usual, Poloncarz doesn't talk to the city like he's supposed to, and the city doesn't talk to the county like they're supposed to.
Well, Poloncarz is doing one or two things. He's bitching and moaning about Trump, and rather, instead of talking about Trump, you should actually focus on actually doing what's right by the community.
True.
I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the county has been responsible for the KeyBank Center's 30-year lease, which ends on October 1st.
Mm-hmm.
The ownership then reverts back to the city, as you were saying, and the city is then on the hook for $200+ million in renovation needed for KBC, and the city of Buffalo is already in $50 million budget deficit.
Yep.
And says they cannot take on this amount of money required, and it requires state intervention. Okay, in other words, you need Kathy Hochul for the shit. And
Yeah.
the city lawmakers need to have a budget finalized by May 26th, which is in about a month from now.
Woo-hoo! Good luck.
Yep. And then, hold on, it gets better. Leaving June or July to figure out ownership of the arena, which is the council is off until August.
Yeah, so in hindsight, everything's going to be late. Again, as always.
You know, if I was Pagula, if he actually gave a shit, which he clearly
Just buy
doesn't,
the damn arena already.
yeah, either buy the arena and make major renovations, or knock it down and just move it onto the opposite side of Lake Erie.
Or if they want to build a sports district, you could always put it in Orchard Park, like some people have started to suggest, especially now that they've got the new Highmark Stadium going up there.
Well, that's
But
like
but
that's
then
like one of the
again,
few things.
yeah, but that's a totally separate thing. And of course, City of Buffalo is going back and forth with the state now because now the state they're like, oh, we're not going to challenge the $1.8 billion defeat of the burying the Kensington Expressway into a tunnel when they could spend the $1.8 billion extend the light rail out to the stadium so you can actually ride on the train to the stadium, which a lot of people want. But apparently, they always say, oh, we don't have the money. Nobody wants the 33 in a tunnel. So,
Well, I have a few theories why this is happening. The
mm,
first one is that Buffalo, as you know, was once a powerhouse industry for the last century, and then the population
yeah,
started to decline for decades and
yeah.
decades and decades, which is no surprise.
Right, especially
But
after Bethlehem Steel closed up, and that caused a lot of jobs to leave.
yep. But here's the other problem. They also spent because Buffalo's a very liberal city, and it's mostly Democrat. But there are areas in the city that will be willing to spend more money on mosques and illegal immigrants and mass immigration than actually building within the city.
Right, and I mean they've mismanaged a lot of money. I mean, and that's just not a new thing. I mean, it goes back years and years and years, even before I was around. So, I mean, and the county has done the same thing too. It goes back years and years and years before I was around. So,
Oh yeah, but you thought this was a bad situation. Oh no, Kevin Adams might still have a job by the end of
sweet
the
Jesus. Okay, this is what I would do if the two of us were in charge of the Sabres, and I would probably say it's like, okay, first thing that would happen, I would just totally clean house. It's
Yeah.
like everybody's gone. I don't care how long they've been here; they're gone. That's the first thing. Basically, one of us would be president of hockey operations. One of us would be the GM. And basically, the first things we would do is right the ship. I mean, we make the trades that we need to make. We develop who we need to develop. We make sure that the Amerks have what they need. We make sure the Sabres have what they need. We also get a new coach. And the only way I would keep Ruff is possibly in an office position, but I would not have him back out on the ice. But in terms of coaches, I know we've talked about them before. I mean, we've mentioned Gerard Gallant several times. He would be a good option. We've mentioned Boudreaux in the past. There is also Jay Woodcroft. We've mentioned him. Hell, even Mike Pekka could be a good developmental coach for the Amherst. I mean, he could be another option. Seth
Well,
Apper, I don't know right now, but I would say Matt Ellis would be one of the first ones I would get rid of because he's done absolutely nothing to this organization but be dead weight. I mean, why is he still on the coaching staff after having the worst power play in the league the
you
year
know,
before?
and
Why? And on top of it, why was Lindy Ruff not able to fire any of the coaching staff that was there? All of them are holdovers.
yeah, really, every one of them is a bunch of pushovers. I mean, it's insane. And we were talking about this earlier, how Pagula only wants yes men. He doesn't want anybody challenging him, which is very obvious to why the Sabres are such fucking garbage. And we've talked about this for since what? Since the beginning of BAD ever?
Yeah, going back to 2019 when we first started this show. And
It's
we're almost at the end of season 5.
yeah, quite literally. It's insane how we're on the verge of 6. But aside the point, um, no, Pakula does not like people challenging him at all. Hell, if you want to take it for context,
Mm-hmm.
he wants to get yes men in the hockey department, but he wouldn't want to do that with football operations because you know why?
He
Because
knows it'll
there's
bite him in the ass and he will lose more money than anything.
and look how much money he's making now with endorsements. And
Mm-hmm.
granted, he right now has a top 3 quarterback in the National Football League
Yeah.
who was almost guaranteed to win a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
So
And that's
you
why
know,
he's hands off on them because he got lucky with McDermott and he got lucky with Bean, and they have managed that team effectively.
yes. And but that's what I don't understand. Why can't he do this for the Sabres? Why can't he just sit back and watch someone take control of operations? Oh, no, no. That's his baby. That's his pride and joy. You know, he doesn't want anybody to hurt his precious Sabres. You know, it's such a fucking joke. And dude, listen, if anything, there was a thing, I don't know if you saw like the notes from the 32 Dots podcast. Did you see that?
I didn't see that specifically, but I have been checking out some of the different notes in the media recently, and it
Oh.
is nuts.
Oh, yeah. You want to hear half the shit?
Sure.
All right. Well, the first one I should probably tell you, because we are talking about this, is there is, according to Elliot Freeman, he said there are expected to be changes. You listening?
Hmm.
Expected changes are to be made within the front office for the Buffalo Sabres, and there is belief that some staff members will be out of a job and Kevin Adams will be replaced.
Good.
Well,
Good.
that's only
Let's hope it happens.
well, we're not even done yet. So here's the next one.
Yeah.
So the next one is about Lindy Ruff. His job is pretty much safe.
Right.
And-
Yeah. They extended him until the end of next year, which next year is his contract year. So
Yeah, it's whatever.
so
but
he'll probably be done after that.
yeah, so Freeman said when you take a look at some of their videos from the trade deadline that they put out, it's very clear to me that Lindy Ruff is a very big voice in that organization. So the fact that it looks like he's coming back, yes, but it looks like to me Terry Pegula really believes in Lindy and he seems secure. Okay, so that
Okay.
pretty much answers the question about Lindy Ruff. Even though I've said in the past that I do not want
He
Lindy
should
Ruff
have not
back.
been back.
I should have. I've said that a year ago, and I
Mhm.
still stand
Right.
by that.
I remember that.
Yep. And as far as Adams, this is where things get interesting. Friedman also said, I'm curious to see how it's all going to work out with Kevin Adams, but I do think he's going to, at very least, some of the staff around him will be out, and he will change it. Does that mean Adams changes his title at all? And that front office will have some kind of a new look next year, and we'll see what he says on Saturday, which was today.
Mhm.
And then this is where things get interesting with Elliot Freeman as well.
Yep.
He also says that the other thing that I've heard this week is that there are teams who are in belief that Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is available for trade.
Okay, so I did hear about that, and UPL was up and down all season. He had some good flashes. He had some flashes where he played like absolute crap, and we've seen that. And I think ever since he had that hip injury going back a couple years ago, he was never the same since. He has not been the same goaltender that I remember seeing back in the scouting when they had the combine here. And this was actually before we even had BAD, where me and our good buddy Doug Lawson ended up broadcasting live on our old channel back at the time. We were live from the combine, and we actually showed real-time footage of the rookies. And I will say UPL has not panned out the way he should have been. Now, granted, Devin Levi had a great season in Rochester. Do I think he's ready to make the move? I want at least one more year of development out of him.
That's fine. I'm fine where Levi is
Mhm.
because if anything, he should have never have came up. I don't even care if there were 6 games left to go in the regular season.
Right.
The dude should have never got called up in the first place.
Right.
And I think because Adams knows he's already fucked up enough, players on the roster that have been overhyped to the oblivion, like Peyton Krebs, for example.
Yeah.
He was a top tier prospect when he got traded to Buffalo in the Jack Eichel deal a few years ago.
Mhm.
It's like once he got there, it's like wow.
Yeah.
You have a star in the making. And then almost 4 years in, it's like, what is this shit?
Yeah. Then look at Jack Quinn. Look at some of the others that we've brought up. I mean, he's rushed them, and that's a
Yeah.
problem.
Adams doesn't know what he's doing. And Pegula, well, God, I can't fucking stand him as a general manager. I cannot stand him.
Yeah.
He has no experience. He doesn't know what he wants to do. He's a yes man. He's a good little boy to Terry. He'll do anything he says. And on top of all that, he'll just say, "Okay, Daddy Terry, I will trade a first-round pick just to win now." I would expect that from Tim Murray of all people,
Mhm.
okay?
Right.
I would
Which
expect
Tim
that-
Murray did piss away a lot of draft picks.
He did, but also think about what he did.
But he also ended up getting people like Ryan O'Reilly and Leonard, and he ended up getting Evander Kane was another one he ended up signing. At least I will say this, with Murray, it was like the polar opposite of Darcy Regier, and I think that's why a lot of people liked him at the time.
I did.
But yeah, I did too. I mean, at least he was trying to get established players in here, but then he pissed away the farm system in Rochester, so that didn't help, and that set us back in development at least 5 years, and it actually still has set us back. Then Botterill focused all on Rochester, getting them to redevelop and got them playing better, but then did absolutely nothing on the Sabres. And then now we're at Kevin Adams, which is just a total crapshoot.
Adams doesn't he has some good moments, but Botterill is not even the worst general manager.
No, he isn't.
And I mean, don't get me wrong, he was shit. He's a nice guy, but it's like
Yeah, we've met him.
we've met him, nice guy, but it's
Yeah.
like
Hell,
he
we
didn't
even
know what
got
to
pictures
do.
with him, and you signed some
Yeah.
shit.
I mean, look, Bots was a nice guy. We both
Uh-huh.
met him when you first came down to see me.
Yeah, at the old barn.
Yeah, at the old barn. And Bots was a great guy.
Yeah.
He was willing to take pictures. He was like, yeah, and how are you doing?
Yeah, we
guys?"
talked with him for a good five minutes or so. He was cool. He gave us plenty of time.
He's not a bad person. He's just not good at his
Right.
job.
Exactly. It just wasn't a good GM.
Yeah, no. But it's funny because when you look back on the Evander Kane trade from Murray, I think, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't that first round pick they gave to the Jets that turned to Kyle Connor?
It was.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that set us back.
Oh joy. I love mediocrity.
Exactly. Yeah, and what happened? The Winnipeg Jets are in the playoffs.
As one of the best teams in the league, bar
Yeah,
none.
exactly.
And they just won the
Exactly.
President's Trophy.
Yeah, they're a solid team right now.
I cannot fucking stand him.
No, but still, it's like how many more chances is Kevin Adams going to get? It's like he's literally like a cat with 18 lives right now.
Isn't this like his 5th year, 6th year?
Yeah, and he's done absolutely nothing to speak for it.
No, and he's shown that he can't be. How do I explain this? He's not the guy moving forward.
Right.
He's proven that he's not
Yeah.
capable.
And he's gone through what? 3 head coaches already? Don Granato is with Ruff.
And then Ralph Kruger. Well, no,
Yeah.
Bots. No. I
Wait,
take that back.
wait. Bots had Kruger.
Yeah, Bots had Kruger. He also had Phil Housley.
Right.
So I'm trying to think.
And then I think Granato was fired.
No, because Ted Nolan came before Tim Murray, got
Right.
fired.
Yeah, he got fired by Tim
he got
Murray.
extended, and then the following year he got fired.
Right. Then they brought in
Bilesma came
Bielsa.
in. Yeah, Bilesma came in.
Then
and
he got fired.
Yeah, he
Thanks
got
to Jack
fired.
Eichel.
Yeah, and then it was Phil Housley.
Then he got
gets
fired.
Then again, Ralph
After we had
Kruger.
the fire Housley sign up at the old barn, he was like fired like 7 days later.
Oh my God, yeah. And then you have Ralph Kruger. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what a catcher that guy was. And then you have
Which then led to Botterill's firing.
yeah, and then you have Granato, who I thought was gonna work out at first.
Yeah. And then it just turned into the same old, same old.
Yeah, and then they bring in Lindy Ruff back because Kevin Adams was too lazy to actually get people outside of the organization.
Yeah. He decided, it's like, oh, I already know who I wanted. And then, of course, when Adams ends up saying, oh, yeah, I interviewed all these candidates. Who were they? I just interviewed all these candidates and decided Lindy Ruff was the best. Okay, who were they?
That's what I mean.
You didn't talk to anybody. You already knew who you wanted from the first minute, and you talked to Ruff. And the only time you were gonna talk to anybody is if Ruff told you no like 5 times, which he already said no at least once.
And the funny thing is, he said no. He didn't want to do the team deal.
Right.
He did a 2-year deal because it was going to pay. The only reason why I think Lindy's there to begin with is because he wanted to be paid. That's like any
Right.
coach in the league.
Of course.
So,
Of course.
So this whole thing doesn't even make any sense because you have a GM who doesn't know what he's doing. You have an owner who only wants power and control, just like a real communist. And I've said that before, and I'll say it a billion times, either
Right.
until he sells the team or he's dead. I'll keep saying it.
Sure.
And trust me, his gold-digging wife won't do shit. All right? I'm going to put that out there. And then you have Matthew Barnaby coming out against him. You had Mike Harrington coming out against him. You have the fans that are turning on him. It's like everybody is tired of this shit.
Right.
And we're not the only 2 people who watch the team consistently every year and say, get rid of this guy.
Right.
We've said it over and over and over and over again. We've said it.
Yeah. It's like, how many times do we have to keep saying, change needs to happen? Okay, you've got some good players in there right now. Tage Thompson, 40 plus goals. He is absolutely someone you keep. There is no question about that. Build a team around him because he has excelled in what he's doing. Peterka, another great player. Keep him. Alex Tuck, good player. Keep him. Zucker, he's definitely a good voice in the room. But when you look at everybody else, and I would even say Darlene, he's like one of your most solid defensemen. But other than that, who the fuck do you have?
Not that I know of, not really something to be proud of. And you know what's bad too? It's bad enough that James Reimer stole the job from UPL.
Yeah. What does that tell you? Because I was down on Reimer early in the season.
I was too.
And he absolutely did a lot of good things towards the end, and he turned it around. He actually looked like a good goaltender again for the most part.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they at least bring him back for one more year and then replace the UPL with someone who's actually eligible to actually do the fucking job, and rather just some degenerate in the draft that we have to wait 5 fucking years for.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know, dude. It's like, again, I feel like it's a revolving drum every year with these assholes because it's like they don't learn, and it's almost like they're not determined to. It's bullshit, but at the same time, we have no choice but to live with this shit.
Yeah.
Until something actually happens. Look at me. I live in Long Island. I'm
Right.
an Islander fan. I have to deal with Lou Lamoriello's bullshit every fucking year.
Oh yeah,
since he
and you
got
got to
hired.
deal with Patrick Waugh.
Oh my god, dude. Yeah, no. I mean, Matty Martin's gonna retire. Cal Clutterbuck just retired. Kyle Palmieri might retire.
Yeah.
And
we've got 3 players we're going to talk about and a few that are retiring. So
yeah, and then you have fucking Patrick Waugh say, this is my team and this is the way things are gonna work around here. You pissed off Anthony DeClaire. The Islanders, to me, are just an older version of the Sabres right now. At least the Islanders at least have something to show for in the last 5 seasons.
Yeah, at least they've made some playoff runs, but still, I mean, that's better than what the Sabres have done lately.
Oh, anything's better than what the Sabres have done.
Well, yeah, of course. Dude, I live here. I got to put up with this crap.
And how I'm a fan in Long Island, I have no idea.
Yeah, but still, it's like, I was going to say, so if the two of us were to take over a team, what would you want? President of Hockey Ops, or would you want the GM?
I want the GM.
Okay, and I'd be President of Hockey Ops then.
Because I at least have experience of playing beer league hockey.
True. And I have the business aspect of it, so, but I would say first thing would be a total house cleaning top to bottom. It's like, this is the way it is, and tough shit. That is just going to be how it is. If I were to keep Lindy Ruff in any capacity, it would be in the front office. But even then, I would want to be very careful with that. But then again, we would be looking at every single position. I mean, we would have to build defense. We obviously have to build out the offensive positions. Power play is a huge thing we'd have to do, getting that set.
By the way, speaking of which, Kyle Connor just scored a one-timer with a mid-36 left in the third period, and the Jets are on the verge of beating the Blues.
Ooh, all right. So that series will go 1-0. So,
yep, and then Colorado-Dallas is coming up next. That's going to be a hell of a series. But I can't wait to talk about that.
That will be. Yeah, but then, thinking about that, we'd revamp the fan entertainment. Of course, I'm good on the tech side, so I'd be redoing a lot of stuff in the arena and redoing a ton of stuff with renovations. I'd probably sink $500 million into it. But, at the same time, give the fans something that's worth watching. That's the biggest thing. And right now, the Sabres don't care.
No, they don't. Pagula does not care. The only reason he has the team is for him to make a few extra bucks. I mean, dude, you're a fucking millionaire. Or, I'm sorry, you're a billionaire.
Yeah, he's only worth $7 billion.
Why, and this is what I don't understand about sports. Why is it that an owner who makes more than all of us combined is so cheap on a team? I never understood that. If you're going to be a cheap ass on the team, why the fuck do you own them?
Exactly. It's like Bob Nutting, just spend the absolute minimum.
If there were more Steve Cohens in the world, I'd be glad as shit.
Oh, yeah, same here. I mean, that would be perfect. Get Cohen, because he's actually doing something with the Mets, which the Mets made a hell of a playoff run last year. They're off to a great start this year. So,
I can't wait to talk about them for sure.
Yeah, that will be fun.
Absolutely.
But here's the thing, Mr. Pagula, if you are watching, fire Adams, make change, and do it sooner than later because the fans are getting sick of non-action. It's just how it is.
And it's 5-3.
Ah, okay.
Yep, Adam Lowry just scored the empty netter, and the Jets are up 5-3 over the Blues.
Yep. Yeah, so with that, just a couple of quick hits, and then we'll get into some other hockey topics. But yeah, the XL Energy Center in St. Paul, Minnesota, is going to be not known as that anymore because it's been 25 years, and XL Energy has decided not to renew naming rights. So, of course, a new name will be announced in the near future. But XL Energy is still going to partner with the Wild on some other things. But yeah, that's not the first time we've ever seen name changes.
Just not the arena, though.
Yeah, they'll still be involved with the Wild. They're just not going to have the naming rights on the arena.
Yeah, and they've had that name since they were inaugurated, which is crazy.
Yeah,
And
it's kind of like what happened in Pittsburgh. Consol Energy had the naming rights for the first 10 years or so, and they still partner with the Penguins on different things. It's just now PPG Paints owns the naming rights.
I mean, that's not a bad thing in general.
Right, exactly. And I've been to that arena. It's a nice arena. And I've been to the old Igloo too. So.
Oh, in the Igloo with the Penguins.
Yep. Yep.
Well, it's kind of funny because it's like with me, they had the Nassau Coliseum. Then the Islanders moved to Brooklyn for the Barclays Center. Oh dear God!
Yeah, I remember you hated that place with a passion.
Dude, I fucking hate it. It's still to this day.
Yeah.
And it's designed for basketball, not hockey.
Right. It was originally supposed to be both, and then it was so over budget. They're like, no, we're just gonna go basketball only.
Yeah, really. And then the Islanders got forced out. They go back to the Coliseum. Then they get UBS Arena.
Yep. Which you've said is a very nice place.
Yeah, dude, I want you to come down at some point and check it out. You know, I think you deserve it. Because I would be leery, though, because the All-Star Game might not happen next year. So I just want to let you know now. So
yeah. But that being said, I mean, besides the Wild changing their name, of course, the good old boys club goes on with the Bruins. And it's not getting better anytime soon. Especially knowing the Bruins' track record on the good old boys club.
Oh, God. Yeah. So Frank Zervelli came out with a source on Monday, and he said that there are no changes to be expected within the Boston Bruins front office. Both Don Sweeney and Cam Neely have been in the lockstep and are hard at work on the next iteration of the club. So, in other words, the Bruins are looking to rebuild. And the funny thing about that is, here's something that the New York Rangers and the Boston Bruins have done that the Buffalo Sabres haven't done. And that was sending out a letter. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the letter basically says, you know, we're going to suck for a little while, and we hope you guys can stick with us through and through. We're going to be terrible for the next few years. So just be prepared for going through a rebuild. That's what the Boston Bruins did. And I actually read that letter on Wednesday when we were supposed to originally do the show. And Charlie Jacobs wrote that letter, and he basically said, listen, guys, we're going to be terrible for a little while, so just please bear with us. First, we still love you. You know, you guys, you know, it's a huge milestone we've been able to accomplish within the last 15, 20 years. Just bear with us. We're going to get better again soon. That's basically what he said. And that's something that the Boston Bruins, a division rival, has done more than the Buffalo Sabres with Terry Pegula in the last 15 fucking years.
Yeah. They're not afraid to change the team in certain cases, but then they always like to keep the good old boys.
Yeah, and the Rangers did it. I think the Flyers did it at one point where they wrote a letter to their fans saying that we're going to be horrible for a couple of years. Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay. So, Pagula, why don't you acknowledge the fact that we're going to suck for a bit, and why don't you do something about it?
Oh, shit. Not for nothing, but there's a line brawl going on in Winnipeg.
Nice. All right. We got some old school hockey going on.
In a playoff game.
Even better.
Oh, that's glorious, dude.
Even better.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean,
that's the stuff we love to see.
I mean, it's meant to be.
Yeah. Gotta love a good old line brawl.
Of course.
Yeah. But it's like, seriously, yeah, the Sabres are, at this point, oh, God. it's bad.
Like, my soul literally dies inside every time I spend $130 a year just to watch out of market games.
Right. Or the time you came up last December and we walked out in the second period against that game with Columbus.
Understand. I mean, listen.
When we were down 7-1. And they scored right when we were walking out.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Look, I love the city of Buffalo. I think the people are very friendly. KeyBank Center is an okay stadium in general. It really needs an upgrade,
Yeah.
but
It's not great. It's okay. The new
yeah,
scoreboard is a lot better than what we used to have. I will say that.
it's okay. But the fans are great as usual. They're really trying, but it's Pakula that makes it hard. That's the
Hmm.
problem. He doesn't
Right.
care, and yet I was able to have a fun time with you guys, and you guys
Yeah.
made them more fun than it had to be, and it was great.
Yeah.
But
We had a good time going to it.
that was hands down the worst game I've ever been to.
Yeah, that was easily, if not the worst game I've been to, it's easily in the top 2 or 3.
Oh God.
But
And
I
I'm
think that
sorry that I
was the
had to be there
worst.
with you.
But, it's all good. Hey, afterwards we drank beer and had wings and food, so it was all good.
Yeah, but ultimately we had a great time at the Bills game at that week.
Yep, yeah, that made up for it. So,
It did.
so that was a big plus. But that being said, several retirements are coming in the NHL, and Logan Couture has decided to hang up the skates. Matt Martin has done the same, and Alec Martinez has done the same. And of course, Mitch Marner, because the Maple Leafs are in cap hell, there are some rumblings he might be looking at going to the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah, David Savard's going to retire after the playoff run for the Canadians end, so you could add him onto the list as well. There's also been talk of Kyle Palmieri. I'm not 100%. Marc-Andre Fleury's going to retire.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty obvious.
Yeah, gets a win in what could be his final regulation home game, so good to see him get that.
Without a doubt. But yeah, regarding the whole Mitch Marner thing, so Jeremy Rutherford for The Athletic believes that Mitch Marner would be a terrific fit with the St. Louis Blues, but mentions that because of an expected asking price, if he hits the open market, it is possible that he is well out of their price range.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. He would be a nice addition to the Blues, though.
It would be. And the Blues are also going through a rebrand next year. New jerseys, new logo, everything.
Yep. Yeah, that'll be interesting too because I mean there are some changes coming to uniforms.
Oh yeah, I'm excited. Same with the Bruins. The Bruins are getting new uniforms fully. I think the Blackhawks are doing what the Bruins did, which is a 100th anniversary jersey. The Rangers are doing a home and road jersey for their 100th year. We probably don't know yet, but what was I gonna say? Detroit might do one, but no, Boston is definitely going through a full-on redesign, rebrand. Same with the Blues. The Blues are going with a classic 70s look, which is going to look nice. The Bruins are
Nice.
going through a classic 70s look as well. So that's going to look nice as well.
Yeah, for sure. And then, of course, before we jump into the Stanley Cup playoffs, because we're going to talk about some predictions as it comes to that, it was disclosed over the past week that Chris Simon had stage 3 CTE.
Chris Simon, man. I loved Chris Simon when he was on the Islanders. I'll say that straightforward. And I'm not a lot of people are going to admit that, but I'll be one of the few people that will. And Chris Simon apparently was diagnosed on Monday because he died a few years ago through suicide. So he had stage 3 CTE, which is chronic traumatic epilepsy or whatever. And pretty much they shared a statement. His family stated that before his death by suicide last summer, he was dealing with a number of serious symptoms, including memory loss, hearing issues, daily headaches, anxiety, paranoia, and impulsive behavior.
Yeah, it's stuff we've heard of on other CTE cases before, and hey, may he rest in peace as well. I mean, he made some good contributions to the league.
He did, but he also became one of the most highly profiled players publicly linked to this degenerative brain disease, which is believed to be caused by repetitive trauma to the head. And considering Chris Simon was a big-time enforcer and things like that, Chris Simon, that was what he was known for, to kind of be like the Brad Marchand of the era before Brad Marchand.
Right. Yeah, so it's definitely one of those things. I mean, at least now there's more awareness to it, and I know even in football, same thing too. I mean, there's a lot more awareness of it now, and the way that helmets are being designed to help with better protection from head injuries happening. at least, there have been some advancements with it, which is a good thing. I mean, and that should help in terms of seeing less and less over time. But then again, I mean, who knows what's going to happen? Because, I mean, of course, there's not as many enforcers in the NHL now compared to what we had even 10 years ago. But you almost have to think that we're probably going to hear more CTE news coming out from notable players as time goes on, especially now that we've had several enforcers retire now 5-10 years ago.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would think that enforcing is coming back slowly, but it's not going to come in like a massive tidal wave. But
Right.
there have been a decline because Batman wants to make it safer for the players and all that jazz. But it's not. It's not to the point where fighting is completely obliterated from the game. Because if you do that, then
you're never going to eliminate it completely.
You can't. You don't have to do that. I mean, if you want to limit it, then okay, but it has to be done correctly. And I say that about every other situation, but it's true, in a sense.
Yeah, there are certain times to drop the gloves. There are certain times to not drop the gloves.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Rempe is a perfect example of a modern enforcer who is pretty much bringing back the old days.
Yeah, Tom Wilson's another one. Basically, he's not afraid to drop the gloves against anybody.
Oh yeah, I mean it's Tom Wilson. I mean, what do you
Yeah,
expect?
and he'll take cheap shots, so he's known for that. But
So
he's not afraid to fight anybody.
yeah, I'll be right back. Give me 1 second.
All right. So Bob here takes a couple minutes sabbatical. We're gonna jump into. We'll actually jump back in, and we're gonna
Just
talk
had
a
to
little
get
bit.
water.
Oh, okay. So that's all good, but yeah, but no, with Wilson, I mean, of course, yeah, we're starting to see a little bit more of it. But that being said, the time of year we all like to talk about, and that is the Stanley Cup playoffs, and making some predictions.
You know what? I've been waiting all week to do this, and I think it's time that you and I, Mr. Wojak, do our annual Stanley Cup playoff format, our playoff prediction. And this year, we're going to actually do the actual bracket from NHL.com/bracket. And I'm going to reveal my 2 picks. You're going to reveal your 2 picks.
Yep.
And go from there. And the puck drop is about to begin in Dallas.
All right. So of course we already know Winnipeg won the first game in their series.
Goes to the Avalanche.
All right. Yeah, that'll be a good series. So with that, of course, if anyone wants to do their own brackets, right now NHL.com, it's actually bracketchallenge.nhl.com. You can actually jump in to the bracket challenge and possibly win some money out of it. And I actually have at least one bracket entered already. So with that, do you want me to do the honors, or you want to do the honors just to kick us off?
Well, let's first pull it up on the screen so that everyone can see it. And we'll do you first, and then we'll do me.
Okay, so what I will do is just give it one moment here, and we will then go ahead and we can get stuff shared on here. So
yeah, I'm excited to do this because I've waited since Wednesday to do this, and at first I wasn't really sure how I was going to do it, but I don't think the bracket was available at the time because everyone was just waiting on the Canadians to make the playoffs, and then obviously they make it in.
Right. Yeah, I know that was a big thing. So of course, on the screen, you're now going to see that I actually do have a blank bracket that I've pulled up here. So what we'll do is we'll kind of go through it, and we'll talk about it here. So with that being said, what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to start with the West first. And of course, we have the Winnipeg Jets, we have the St. Louis Blues. I am definitely going to be picking Winnipeg. I think overall, stronger team, President's Trophy winner. They have been quietly one of the best teams in the West this year. And they've actually been building up over the last several years. They've actually been doing well. So I definitely think they would be able to take out the Blues. I do think it'll probably be 6 games, but I definitely do think that Winnipeg will move forward. Dallas and Colorado, that is going to be a fun series to watch.
Oh, yeah.
And It is a very tough choice on that one because Colorado does so many things well. Dallas is a powerhouse. Those two teams hate each other. We know that. But I'm thinking if I had to choose one over the other, I am going to go Dallas over the Colorado Avalanche. And I think that Winnipeg versus Dallas, that would be a hell of a series to watch.
That would be really fun to watch.
Yep. Then Vegas and Minnesota, I'm thinking that's going to be Vegas. I mean, they just have a ton of firepower right now, and plus they're actually not beyond banged up like they were last year. Then Kings and the Oilers, that's a good one also to keep an eye on. But I just the question I have about Edmonton though, defensively and goaltending, those are the two things. And sure, Skinner's been all right for them, but I just think LA is the more complete team. So I'm thinking Vegas versus LA. And basically with that, of course, I mentioned 6 games for them. I'm thinking LA in 5. I think Vegas and Minnesota, it would probably be 5. I'm thinking 7 games for Dallas. Is basically
That would be a hell of a playoff game. If
Yeah.
that were to go 7 between Dallas and Colorado, that would be insane.
Yeah, absolutely. Then what I'm thinking between Winnipeg and Dallas. Oh man, that's a tough one because those two teams, I could really see it going either way. Vegas and the Kings, I think the edge would go to Vegas, quite honestly,
Fair enough.
but not by much. But Winnipeg and Dallas, holy crap. Both have
That's
good
not so
goaltending.
easy, is it?
No, it's not, because both have good goaltending. Both have complete lines.
I think if it were to me, I would probably aim it at who's going to be coming out healthier and who has more depth.
Right.
That's my big thing with both teams. If this was me.
Yeah. And I would say... Yeah, that is tough. I would almost... I'm thinking I might give the nod to Winnipeg just because I think they're just a touch better than Dallas this year. Then, between Vegas and Winnipeg, I'm going to go Vegas.
Ooh, that's ballsy.
So I think Vegas has the ability to come back and they'll match Winnipeg. So I think that they could potentially be in their third Cup final. Then, let's see. Fuck the Leafs, but I do think that the Leafs will take out Ottawa. Florida and Tampa. This is going to be a good series, but I will give the edge to Florida. I just think they're a much more complete team than what Tampa has been the last couple of years. Washington and Montreal. I will give that to Washington because even though Montreal somehow got into the playoffs this year and they actually didn't play like total ass.
Well,
even though
I
they're
think to be
rebuilding.
fair, I think to be fair to the Canadians, they were one of the hottest teams in the last couple of weeks. They got hot at the right time,
Yeah.
and I think that's why Montreal got in so
Right.
close to the end. It was between them and Columbus.
Yeah, but I do think Washington will still take them out. And then this will be a good series. Jersey and Carolina. That is going to be a fun one to watch. I would have to say, and I know Rob is not going to like this, but I am taking Carolina over the Devils. I would say Toronto gets it in 5 games. I think Florida and Tampa will go the distance. I think Washington and Montreal will go 6, and then I think Carolina and New Jersey will probably go 6. Then between those teams, what I'm thinking is that between Florida and Toronto, I would say Florida's going to take it in the Caps, and then I'm going to go with the Caps. And I would love to see this happen.
Again.
I want to see Ovi get his second cup.
Now that's asking you, how many goals do you think will be scored in the Stanley Cup Finals?
Let's see. Between the two, I'm gonna go 25 total, and we'll go with that. So that's what I got on that. So then with that, what we'll do is, you know what? Let's do another bracket here. So
Well, this one's going to be my bracket.
Yep.
At least from this perspective.
Yep. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and create a new one.
And we'll call it Bobby, or Bobby BAD bracket, whatever. I won or qualified or whatever.
All right. So you want to take the East Coast or the West Coast first?
Well, first, can you make it a little bit bigger? Because the screen's a little small.
Yeah, I can't blow it up more than it already is.
All right, fine.
Unfortunately.
That's all right. I'm gonna start with the East because that's what I'm thinking. The Battle of Ontario, the Leafs and the Senators. Bless you. That was my wife. She sneezed. But the Leafs Senators, the Battle of Ontario. I gotta say that I think historically this could be very, very close. But this is nothing like the 2000s between the two clubs when they met in the playoffs. But different time frame, different shit, whatever. But if I'm talking about strength and weaknesses here, I have to give the edge to the Leafs. And I just think the Leafs are just a better all-around team, and they're a little more experienced than Ottawa right now. But it doesn't mean they can't pull off an upset, so I'm taking the Leafs.
Okay.
Okay. Then the next one is the Battle of Florida. Okay, this was one of the series that I had probably the hardest time figuring out which one I wanted more between the two because I think both teams are so good and they've been dominant in the last half decade that because the last 4 years have been nothing but the Floridian teams in the Stanley Cup Finals in the last 5 years. I mean, can you really blame me?
No, definitely can't.
I mean, I got to look at strengths and weaknesses here. I mean, I think Florida is a very well-repped team. They obviously want to defend their crown. They obviously want to win another cup. But do I think they could do it this year? Yes. But I think the same could be said for Tampa. I mean, Andre Vasilevsky has been playing lights out. The Bolts, a team that was supposed to be declining not even 2 years ago, is now all of a sudden back in the race, and they're one of the best teams in the league, if not one of the best teams in the second half of the season. I mean, that is insane, honestly. Like, I can't even describe Tampa in a complete sentence about how talking about, like, their system and their fracture. But if I had to pick a winner, because, again, this is very difficult for me to pick, I'm going to go with Tampa because I think they have more experience than Florida. And, yes, Florida won a cup, and Tampa went to the finals 2 years in a row. But I think, as of now, Tampa Bay has better experience than Florida.
Okay.
That's what I think. Washington and Montreal taking the Capitals. This is pretty easy. The Habs just got in just by the skin of their teeth to make the playoffs this year.
Yep, barely edging out Columbus.
Yep, getting by Columbus. Washington, this year's Caps team, it just feels very different. Like, to me, I feel like, Ovi having the record, I think this would be a great run for him to be on, per se, getting the record and all that jazz.
Yeah.
But can they surpass their demons in the past from the playoffs? Always choking in the worst possible time. Can they do it? I think in this scenario, yes. They will get past the first round like they used to do all the time. So give me the Capitals, and that's what I'm going to do. Hurricanes, Devils. Ooh. I'm going to be honest.
That's a tough one.
Both teams are fucking garbage this year. I'm not going to lie. The Hurricanes have been horrible as of late. The Devils, you can't really blame them because Jack Hughes got hurt and everyone else is just falling to shit.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't really blame anybody, but, the Devils just had the worst luck. The Canes, oh my God, they blundered their future with that Rantanen trade, and that bit them in. That trade that they pulled off in January bit them in the ass. Literally. And it is clearly showing why you need Martin Niches. This is why you need Taylor Hall. This is why you need those guys. But Nietzsche's is not on the team anymore. Drury's not on the team anymore. So that doesn't even matter. So that's all on the Canes. That's all on the Canes for doing that. But as far as right now, I'm giving the edge to Carolina. They're just a little more experienced than Jersey.
Okay. Okay. Great. And then for the four series here, how many games do you think they'll go?
Okay, so for the Leaf series, I'm taking them in 5.
Okay.
For the Tampa Florida series, I'm going to take Tampa in 7.
Okay.
And then for the Caps, I'm taking them in 4 games. I think they're going to sweep the Canadians.
All right. All right.
But it doesn't mean Montreal can't get better from here.
Sure.
And as for the Canes and Devils, I'm taking the Canes in 6.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and I think, for the number of games, we kind of thought about similar things as well. I know I ended up picking Florida in 7. You have Tampa in 7, so that'll be actually an interesting series to see how that will go. And then of course, I had the Capitals in 5, and then I think I had Carolina in 6 also. So we're pretty good. I was gonna say, if you want to do one of those, prop bets again, like we did last year with Tampa and Florida.
What did we do last year?
We had Battle Vindaloo number 2.
Oh, fuck no.
Okay, all right.
Fuck no.
All
I'm
right.
going on vacation, brother.
Okay.
I can't have my ass. I can't
Gotcha.
have my asshole burning while I'm in freaking Alaska.
Okay. All right. So then, with what we have here in the second round, Tampa and Toronto, who would you think goes to the conference final?
Oh. I didn't think this through. Well, the Leafs are just so good this year, honestly. I mean, you have Marner, Matthews, and Nylander killing it this year. Tavares is regaining strides. Alex Dollars has been great. The Leafs are just building up a little bit better defensively, and they have enough depth. I have to give the same thing to Tampa. They're in the same conversation as well, but will it be enough to beat Toronto? I'm going to say it's tough to say, but I think it comes down to goaltending. It's not about the defense because they both have stellar goaltending and both have stellar defenses, and both offenses are just lights out. But you can't count out the Tampa Bay Lightning. So give me the Lightning. I think they're going to knock out the Leafs.
Okay.
And then Capitals Hurricanes. Oh, this is a good one. This is a tough one. I didn't really think about this one either because, well, Caps have just been playing great.
Yeah.
The Canes have
and
been...
Ovi doesn't have the pressure on hitting the record anymore.
Well, yeah. He can just go literally hawk wild. Carolina has the pressure on them now because it's basically cup or bust at this point because they've been trying now for like 6 years. They got a Stanley Cup, and it hasn't really worked out in their favor. But if I had to pick a winner, I got to go with the Capitals.
Okay.
That's what I think. I'm taking the Capitals.
Cool. And then if you had to choose between the Lightning and the Capitals, who would you choose?
Oh, boy.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a tough one.
That's okay. I'm up for a
Yeah.
challenge. Both of them are so well built. I mean, John Cooper, you can't knock him out as a coach.
Right.
Spencer Carberry, literally, I think this is literally the first year we're really seeing Carberry's system in full work because if I remember correctly, they got swept by the Rangers last year, and the Capitals have always been a consistent playoff team. They've had a few years where they missed it, but it wasn't tragic. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't something like...
they're usually always in it or very close.
Yeah, like, usually, since at least the Ovechkin era, that's always been the case for the Caps. But as far as experience, and because both of them have been phenomenal in the last decade with Tampa and Washington, it's hard to say, but if I had to pick a winner right now, I'm going to be taking, God damn it, and I don't want to regret it. I'm going to take the Tampa Bay Lightning. I firmly think I don't know what it is, but there's just something very special about that team. I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it, but there's just something very, very special about Tampa this year.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So now that we've got that, We'll shift over to the West, and this is actually we already know Winnipeg won tonight against St. Louis, but who do you think would win the series?
Hmm. Well, we know the Jets won the first game, but that doesn't mean anything.
Yep.
But you know what? Fuck it. I'm going Blues in 7.
Ooh, all right.
I'm going Blues in 7.
And then next we have Dallas and the Colorado Avalanche, which will arguably be one of the best matchups in the series.
Yeah, for sure. But here's the thing, before I forget, no knock on the Jets. They're a great team. There's 2 words. President's Trophy.
Mm-hmm.
That is the worst thing you can win right now, especially in your situation. And that's why I don't have much faith in you.
Gotcha.
Because you need to go on a deep playoff run, and I don't believe you guys can do it. Unless you can prove me wrong, of course. But the Blues have the experience.
Okay.
So I got to do that. And plus, Jordan Binnington owns Connor Hellebuck.
True.
So I'm just throwing that out there.
Okay.
So I'm taking the Blues. Stars Avalanche. Okay. So while you were doing your prediction, I actually had a really hard time with this one. But you know what? Both teams are so equally matched. Like I can't even confiscate that. Both teams have great goaltending.
Yeah.
They both have great players on their team, and Dallas is a juggernaut. Colorado's a juggernaut. But the big thing with Colorado is they're getting healthy, which is huge, which they
Right.
desperately need to do in this type of year. Dallas isn't getting any better because Miro Heiskanen is out for a few weeks, or at least till the past the first round. It's tough to say because I do like Dallas and I do like Colorado. I like both teams. But if I had to pick a winner right now, I'm taking Colorado.
Ooh, okay.
I don't know what it is. I just think they're just more experienced than Dallas right now.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Then the next one we have is Vegas and Minnesota.
Vegas, easily.
Okay.
I'm taking Vegas in 6 games.
Okay. And then the Kings and Oilers.
A lot of people have said, they're doubting Edmonton because, they're completely injury riddled. Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl are little in their, not their last leg, but they're like at the point where it's like they might not ever win shit in Edmonton.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a problem. But Stuart Skinner, if you want to win a Stanley Cup, you need consistent goaltending. And that's a huge factor. So you need that. But can they do it against this Kings team? LA was banked up to the core last year when they played Edmonton. This year, the Kings are fully healthy and they are rejuvenated and they want to beat the living shit out of Edmonton as far as
Right.
I'm concerned. So give me the Kings in this situation. Give me LA.
Okay. And I know you said, trying to think. So you said St. Louis and Winnipeg was what, 7 games?
I said St. Louis in 7.
Okay. And Colorado, all right. And then I know you said Vegas in what, 6?
Yeah, I said Vegas in 6. I said Colorado at 7. I think that's a very strong possibility because, again, both teams are amazing. And Kings Oilers, I'm going to take the Kings at 5.
Okay. There we go. Then, shifting to the second round, the Blues and the Avalanche.
Well, it's another division rivalry, so
It's a good matchup.
it is a good matchup. And they know each other very, very well. Same applied with Dallas, but St. Louis, I think they pull up the upset over the Jets, but I don't see them getting past the Avalanche. I have to take the Avalanche here. I think they're just way too damn good.
Okay. Yeah, I'd agree with you on that. And then we shift to Vegas and the Kings, which we know those two teams hate each other.
Oh, yeah, for certain. But, again, Vegas has a Stanley Cup. But LA is not the same team as they were 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, not even 10 years ago, with the exception of Anze Kopitar.
Right.
So I'll say that. But they are one of the best up-and-coming teams in the league. So it's not like the Kings are some slouch.
Right. They've rebuilt really well.
They did. And you know what? I think from that retrospective, I like their core. I like Adrian Kempe. I like Quentin Byfield. I really like Darcy Kemper as their starter. I like where Anze Kopitar is. I know he's on his last leg, but LA, I said it earlier, they're not slouches. So I think with the youth and just having that fresh pieces of legs, it could get them very far in the playoffs, but Vegas has the experience.
Mhm.
So I think with that said, I'm going to take the LA Kings.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, and I still remember Anze Kopitar, how he spoiled our first game of the regular season here at home. So against the Sabres, because the Sabres were beating the Kings, and the Kings come back and win. I'm like, fuck. So
Well, it's the Sabres. What you expect?
yeah, exactly. Then shifting to the conference finals, we have the Avalanche and the Kings. Nice matchup.
Thank you. Um, Kings and Avalanche. Oof. Well, again, like I said earlier, I like both teams. I like LA and I like Colorado. But as far as youth and experience, it's tough to say because they're both very well matched. And again, I mentioned it earlier, the Avs are getting healthier, the Kings are healthy right now. But if the momentum swings in both teams' favors, which very well could happen, I could see this going one way or the other. I truly can. But if I had to pick a winner, I got to go with Colorado. There again, just like Tampa, there's just something very special about Colorado this year.
Mhm. Yeah, they've been playing lights out, and they've been a solid team all season long. So that brings us to then your prediction for the Stanley Cup champion. Would you give it to Colorado or would you give it to Tampa?
See, it's tough because I think they both deserve it,
Mhm.
but only one team could really have it. So, it's tough to say because they did meet in the finals a couple years ago, but that's a completely different team.
Mhm.
But it's very tough to say because again, they're both very well built and they're very well coached. But I gotta go with the Avalanche. I gotta give it to Colorado.
Okay.
I just think they have a better decor than Tampa.
Awesome. And then in terms of the Stanley Cup final series, how many goals do you think would be scored?
Mm,
And I put my number at 25 total.
I'm gonna say 32.
Okay.
Because again, both teams are very high scoring, so I could see this going any direction.
All right. Good stuff. So
So, so who'd you say for your bracket?
so I have the Caps, you have the Avalanche, and then I put you have 32 for the total number of goals in the Stanley Cup final, and I have mine at 25. I think it's a little bit of a lower scoring series.
Well, we'll have to find out come June.
Yep, for sure. So
I
so
I feel really good about my bracket.
yeah, and you know what? And this is actually, and this was definitely an interesting bracket to say the least. So I think it's interesting to see what's going to happen, and of course we'll have that we'll have more as of course we get into the playoffs itself. But of course Dallas and right now it's Dallas and Colorado. They just ended up dropping the pucks, so we'll see how that game goes as we go further into the night. And then obviously we know Winnipeg is already leading the series 1-0. But that being said, let's jump into a little bit of football, and then we'll have a little bit of baseball before we wrap up. But a couple of big things that are coming up right now is there's two possible trades that are coming, and one, Jalen Ramsey, that's no surprise, he wants out, so he has requested a trade, and then Kayvon Thibodeau might be getting traded as well.
Well, let's start with Jalen Ramsey because
Mhm.
this is a big one. So Ian Rappaport on Tuesday came out with a tweet and he says the Dolphins and seven-time Pro Bowler Jalen Ramsey are mutually set to explore trade options. It wouldn't be a surprise if he played elsewhere this coming year. And Ramsey and the Dolphins are due $25.1 million fully guaranteed, could be parting ways.
Interesting. So, hey, and Tyler Tarabocia, guess what? I'm gonna love watching you cry in that video once he does get traded, and if he gets traded to the Bills, even better.
Well, why don't you just have him on here and just have him bitch for a few hours?
I don't think our viewers would necessarily want to see that, but then again, it would be fun ripping them a new one. But it is what it is. We'll see what happens there. But then Kayvon Thibodeau possibly getting traded. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, so according to Ralph Vacciano, who works over at SNY, he covers the Giants. and he said that Kayvon Thibodeau is a potential trade candidate ahead of the upcoming NFL draft next week, which we will be doing a live stream for the first round.
Mhm.
You know, you, me, Brittany, Chris Moment's coming
Yep.
over. It's gonna be fun, and I
Oh,
hope
nice.
Rob
It'll be
Hayes.
good to have him back on. It's been a while.
Oh yeah, I think the last time we had him was last year.
Yeah,
or
it was right
last-
after both of you were up here.
Yeah, I think that's what it was last spring for
Yeah.
the draft. But yeah, the Cowboys are drafting high this year, so he's going to be pretty happy.
Yeah.
But so Vacciano came out with a comment. He said, "quote It might hurt them in the short term, but a deal could be a long-term help because a player like Thibodeau could bring multiple premium draft picks in return."
Mm-hmm.
So my question for you is, if Ramsey or Thibodeau were to be traded, where could you see one of them, if not both, be traded to?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Both are solid players. I'm thinking. Let me. I'm trying to think of how to phrase this here, or trying to think of how to describe it. So, obviously, with Thibodeau, he's a good linebacker. I mean, he plays with the Giants right now. In terms of teams that need linebacking help, I mean, obviously, it is a position that the Bills need. I would love to see him here. But, thinking about it a little bit further, I could see either the Seahawks making a play for him, or I could see possibly Houston making a play for him.
Houston would be a really nice landing spot for Thibodeau.
Yeah, I mean, he'd be a nice fit.
It would be.
I think Houston would be an even better fit than Seattle, quite honestly. But Houston needs to bulk up their linebacking core. I mean, they don't have much of anything right now. So I could totally see that possibly happening. Another, and this is actually interesting as well. Sporting News actually reported that the Detroit Lions could be a nice landing spot for him.
For Thibodeau?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Their
That's
thought
okay.
was they actually had a proposal in one of their articles, and basically one of the things that they thought was that the Lions get Kayvon Thibodeau, the Giants get the 2025 third round pick at 102, and I'm thinking, okay, well, you give them a third round pick, but at the same time, it's like I think Kayvon Thibodeau is worth a little bit more than a third round pick.
Well, I think if you're asking me, a betting man, I would probably say, like, oh, where do I think Thibodeau could go? I think it really comes down to position of need for certain teams. Like, and this is going to really make me gag into my mouth, but Kansas City would be a nice
Mhm.
place for him to go. I could see Pittsburgh making a run at him. I could even see a team like the Eagles making a run at him,
Mhm.
the Lions, like you were saying earlier.
Yeah.
There's a lot of possibilities. Chicago would be a nice one. Buffalo would be a nice one.
Right.
I mean, I think it could go any direction if it came out Thibodeau.
Yeah. And then even with Jalen Ramsey, I mean, there's a couple of different options that, could potentially work out well with him. Bleacher Report had a couple of options that I thought were kind of interesting. One of them that was mentioned was him going to Vegas, and then Miami gets a 2025 fourth round pick, and they get wide receiver Trey Tucker in return. That's one option. The Chargers for a third round pick. The Rams for a third round pick. They also thought Minnesota for a third round pick, or Tampa. And
Go ahead.
and here's the thing: if Tampa were to trade for him, the thought that they had was trade a 2025 fourth round pick and cornerback Jamel Dean. That was
I
an
saw
interesting
one-
thought.
Well, here's one I found. I saw two. One was a deal in proposal with the Patriots, where if, let's say, for the sake of argument, the Giants pass up on
Mhm.
the Giants, let's say, don't draft Shador Sanders, or if they pass up on Abdul Carter,
Yeah.
I could see a situation where Jalen Ramsey, from what I've heard, could be in a package deal where the Dolphins trade with the Pats and trade Jalen Ramsey to New England for the 4th overall pick and a bunch of other things.
Right.
But the other one I heard was one with Philadelphia where Devontae Smith would get traded to the Dolphins as a replacement for Tyreek Hill.
Interesting.
Yeah. And the
Interesting.
Eagles would get Jalen Ramsey and I think a 3rd round pick, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's a good thought. It'd be interesting to see how everything works out there.
But do I think Jalen Ramsey is worth Devontae Smith of all people? Absolutely not.
No.
The Eagles would not do that.
No,
in a heartbeat.
Definitely not.
Philly could trade the pick, but they wouldn't trade Smith.
Right, exactly. So we'll see what happens in terms of like how time goes with those two possibilities. But then on top of it, Hunter and Sanders are getting their jerseys retired. So congratulations to them. And then right before we jump into the NFL draft, there's more controversy down in New Orleans.
Ooh.
And yeah, it's interesting.
It is very interesting. So apparently,
and I'm just gonna mute myself one moment because I am getting a call here, and apparently my mom's giving me a shout. So let me take this real quick.
Yeah, so I will read the report for y'all. So the drama that's happening in New Orleans is there is prevailing belief is that Derek Carr does not want to be in New Orleans anymore, and he's forced to stay. He may choose to miss a significant time due to a lingering shoulder injury that's bothered him for years, according to My Sports Update.
Mm-hmm.
And the situation is, quote, the situation between Derek Carr and the Saints has not got much national attention, mainly because the team hasn't been in the spotlight nationally. But since the start of the offseason, Carr's contract has been complicated issues, factoring in the Saints' tight cap space and Carr's injury, which is guarantees the end of his hand camp season for 2025. So he's been reported to have a shoulder injury. That's the rumor for Derek Carr. But it turns out that so-called shoulder injury is bullshit. And I'm going to explain why in a second.
Right.
And according to Diana Rossini, yes, the Diana Rossini on ESPN, she said on her podcast that she has reported that Derek Carr basically lied about his injury because he does not want to be a bridge quarterback, and he knows that the Saints are going to draft a quarterback, and the story is only getting worse from here on out. So, to give you an idea, Derek Carr lied about his injury that he supposedly had in the offseason. He might sit out all of next season because of this injury in quotation. And it turns out that whole thing was bullshit. It was made up. And the main reason is because he knows he's going to lose the starting job because the Saints could very well draft a quarterback because currently they have the 9th overall pick and they might draft a quarterback. So really, who the fuck knows what the Saints are going to do? And as far as I'm concerned, this is going to be a lot of drama. It's going to be a lot of bullshit going on in the Big Easy. Do they take Shedeur Sanders?
I'm almost thinking
do they take Jackson Dart?
Probably going to be the best thing to do.
Do they take Jalen Milroe? I don't know what the Saints are going to do. Regarding the situation, the Saints are fucked with Derek Carr's contract. They are trying to get rid of his ass. He is useless. He is not as good as he was with the Raiders. And that is completely obvious.
Try to relax.
And for them to draft a quarterback at that age is going to just be lingering. At least a black eye to the Saints. Because of the fact that you're able to draft a young quarterback, it reminds me of, I want to say a couple years ago, with Ryan Tannehill, I think it was with Malik Willis, where he said he was not going to mentor Malik Willis because Tannehill knew he was going to lose the starting job. And sure enough, he lost the starting job to not Malik Willis, but to freaking Will Levis. And Levis, to this day, as of right now, is the starting quarterback for the Tennessee Titans until next week, which he'll likely take Cam Ward. We don't fully know that yet, but there's a 98% chance they're going to take Cam Ward. But until then, we have no idea. And we're going to find out next week, starting next Thursday. We're going to have a live stream, and we're going to have fun with it. Right? I can't wait to do that. But as far as the Saints go, this whole drama is not getting better because you have unhappy quarterback and a quarterback that might not even be on the team next week. And you also lose Ryan Ramchick to retirement. So the Saints are right now in limbo. So, in all honesty, I don't
Do you
know
need me
what
to
their
drive
plan
you?
is going to be moving forward. Because, for one, again, like I said, they might draft a lineman. They might draft a quarterback. We really have no idea. We'll just have to wait and see. And as far as other NFL news, because
Right.
I'm still waiting for his ass to get off the damn phone so we can start everything else. There's been some rumors about RFK Stadium in Washington, and it was said on Wednesday,
Well,
according to
let's do
NBC,
this. I'm
they're
gonna wrap
saying that
up
the
my show
Commanders are close
shortly.
to finalizing a
I
$3
would
billion
send me
deal to build a
the two
stadium in
medicines.
Washington,
Let me know what they
D.C.
are.
at their old site at RFK Stadium, and the plan is set to be ready for
Alright.
2030. So the plan is nowhere close to ready in 5 years from now. But if there's one thing abundantly clear, is you guys know, me and Brittany, a couple of years ago, went to Washington,
It
D.C.
probably is.
for Rugby 32. She loves that stadium for some reason. I absolutely despise it. And it is so night and day with our opinion, but it doesn't really matter. But it doesn't matter if Snyder was the owner or if Harris is the owner.
Ooh.
They desperately needed a new not a new quarterback. They needed a new stadium. And it is not going to sit very well with the fans because $3 billion for a brand new stadium, you have to demolish the old RK site to begin with to build a new stadium. That's usually how this works. They're not going to just take what they had and just revamp it. What's the point? You might as well just knock it all down
Well,
and
your dad
rebuild
stood up
it
for
and
you.
make
That's a
it
big
better and
plus.
stronger. That's what I think they should do. And who knows what's going to happen? Because, again, the Commies desperately need a new stadium. And it's been like that for 25, almost 30 years. They need a new stadium.
Right.
And we are just getting close to the finish line on our segment of the week. And that is Tyron Smith is retiring from pro football at the age of 34. He's a two-time first-team All-Pro, a three-time second-team All-Pro, and an eight-time Pro Bowler. And he was selected 9th overall in 2011 out of USC by the Cowboys, and he just played with the Jets this past year. I mean, if there's one thing about Tyron Smith, he is a future Hall of Famer. So he will be missed in Dallas for sure. And Kadarius Toney is not the only one. Well, Ryan Ramchick and Tyron Smith are not the only ones to retire. Kadarius Toney is also retiring from football. And it's kind of funny because he's only been in the league for 4 years, 5 years at this point. He retires for a fucking rap
it
career.
probably is you being worked up. That's just my guess, but
that is fucking hilarious. So Kadarius Toney himself said that he'll be retiring from the NFL to pursue a career in music. My response? Okay.
Right.
You can't handle trolls on Twitter, so what makes you think that he's going to be able to make shitty rap music? Like, that's just hilarious.
Right.
Oy.
I would try to avoid the hospital if possible, though, because the hospital's going to cost more.
Caleb Williams admitted that the team's 5-12 record this past year in his rookie season took a significant toll on his mental health, even bringing him to the point of tears. Yeah, big freaking surprise.
Right.
He said, quote, "When I got home, I got in my bed, I just dropped a few tears, and I was just so beat up mentally, physically, and spiritually." And he told Esquire's O'Brien, Brian O'Keefe of Esquires, which is, I think, a local newspaper in Chicago. So, Caleb Williams is not only a bitch,
not good,
but he's a bigger bitch than I suspected. So, in general, though, there is some shit to do in baseball, but I'm waiting for Tom to get off the phone so we can actually wrap up, this week's episode, because we still have some baseball to talk about. And I actually have some stuff to discover, and it's going to be phenomenal. So, in general, though,
send me the 2 new ones.
Stanley Cup playoffs is right around the corner. It started today.
And then,
the NFL draft is coming up. So there's a lot of footage coming up that we are very, very excited to announce. I already mentioned earlier that we're going to have Chris Moman, obviously Brittany, if she wants to join, obviously, Rob Hazu, myself, of course. So we're all going to be here for the draft. And, it's going to be fun. It's about 4.5 hours, 5 hours. And, it's going to be fun. And the Bills don't draft until 30th. So they might trade up. They might trade down. They might trade out of the first round again like they did last year. So, realistically,
And Bobby's texting me. He's
No,
like,
I'm
"Why are you still on?"
I'm
And
pretty
it's like,
eager about what's happening
but
here.
let
So
me. No, you're fine.
I think we
Yeah,
interrupt our
if
program because I
we.
think Tom is coming. Not quite
Yeah.
literally like
Well,
that,
if
but
we.
I think he's coming back onto the show.
Yeah. Well, if
It's like,
we.
Tom, get off your phone and come back on here,
Yeah, I was gonna
douchebag.
say, if we get that stuff, do you want me to do
yeah,
it later?
no.
Also,
So
or
in
do you want me to
general,
have you?
we covered a lot tonight. We
Yeah.
just have to get to baseball,
right.
and I don't think Tom wants to miss that on that part because,
Okay.
well, there's a lot to talk about in baseball.
Well,
So yeah, so stay tuned for
Right.
that, and it's going to be very, very fun.
right.
And Tom, hurry the
Well-
fuck up. My mouth is getting tired here, dude. Oh, yeah. I apologize,
Alright,
guys.
well,
This
let
is
me-
what happens when your
well, let me-
degenerate co-host decides to leave me hanging for a fucking
Let
hour.
me get
and
this set
doesn't
real
leave
quick.
you
Send me
any
the
time to
send me
get
the things
water
that you're
by
talking
any
about,
means.
and then
And I have nothing to bitch about. That's all I'm going to apply
just
by.
fucking send it. I'll take a look at it.
My
Okay.
God. Ugh, shit.
No, you owe me pussy eating. All right.
Fuck.
I'll talk to you.
My apologies, guys. Like,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. I didn't think he was going to be on the
Probably-
phone for that fucking
Probably
long.
at least a good part of tonight.
Jesus Christ.
So, anyways, but let me
Oh, God, Tom.
Yeah.
What am I going to do
let
with
me
you,
let
buddy?
me just try to finish this
God
up real
damn
quick,
it.
and then I'll
Why does
call
he
you
do
when
this
I'm
to
done.
me?
Okay.
No, he's just all over the place, really.
All right.
You know?
Okay.
We got a lot going on this
Alright.
coming week. I already mentioned it. And even in the baseball
know.
world, things are starting to, look up and running for the
I know.
Mets. The Dodgers are in second place in the
But
NL West.
Let me just finish this up with
under
him.
the Padres.
I'll be off of
So
here.
there's a lot
if
moving
I'll text
forward,
you when I'm done. All right.
It's a lot.
All right.
Fucking Christ,
All right.
dude.
Bye.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Oh, fuck.
Oh my God.
Sorry about that. I did not
Jesus.
plan on that.
Jesus fucking Christ. Made me look like an asshole out here.
Sorry, it's like I'm trying to get my mom off the phone here, and it's like she kept calling me earlier, like twice. I'm like,
my-
shit. And so, sorry about that, but
Oh my God. I have no room to talk.
no, I gotcha. Well, I will say this though. Apparently, Fernando Tatis Jr. ended up getting another homer, so now he's tied for a National League lead right now, getting number 7. And right now, Houston is up 3-2 in the top of the 9th.
Yeah, no, the Padres are having a great season, and Tatis is killing it like normal. The Padres are just a good team in general. I mean,
Yeah.
did you think the Dodgers were going to be in second or third place in the NL West?
Not really. I mean, I thought they were going to get off to a great start, but here's the thing, and I was wondering why Shohei Ohtani did not play the other night. Well, him and Mamiko Tanaka actually welcomed their daughter into the world, so congratulations to them.
That is a lot of fun to have a baby now,
Yes,
isn't it?
yes, it is. But yeah, just to kind of give you an idea of where we're at right now in baseball for tonight. Of course, San Diego is losing to Houston 3-2 at the top of the 9th. Atlanta is actually beating the Minnesota Twins 4-3 in the top of the 7th. The Angels are tied at 0 with San Fran. They just started. The Philadelphia Phillies actually beat the Miami Marlins 11-10 earlier. Detroit and Kansas City. Kansas City loses 3-1. The Chicago Cubs end up beating the Arizona Diamondbacks 6-2. And, of course, just looking at some of the other scores that we had, Toronto ends up losing 8-4 to Seattle. Baltimore wins 9-5 against Cincinnati. Pittsburgh lays the goose egg against Cleveland 3-0. The Mets get another win. So, racket. 3-0 against St. Louis, and then of course Texas ends up beating the Dodgers 4-3 in the rematch from the other night. Colorado loses to Washington 12-11, and of course the White Sox are doing White Sox things.
Well, the Yankees also lost.
Yeah,
to
they
Rays.
lost 10-8, and Milwaukee lost to the A's 3-1.
And somehow the Athletics are just one game below 500.
Yeah, however the hell they're pulling that off.
I don't know. It's strange to me. And speaking of Baltimore, because there's a lot of drama going right now in Utah Street. Did you read that?
I didn't actually get a chance to read that.
Oh God, dude, you're in for a treat, my amigo. Apparently, so Mike Elias, who is the manager for the Baltimore Orioles, chose Brandon Hyde. He chose to sign Charlie Morton, and Charlie Morton right now is the oldest starting pitcher in baseball today. I think he's 40 years old, 41 years old.
Hmm.
He's an old ass guy. So so Mike Elias chose to hold on to blocked prospects and destroy their value instead of making a trade to help the team. And it's no wonder why these young stars who used to be fun to watch are now lifeless. So there's growing belief on Utah Street in Baltimore that
Hmm.
the Orioles organization that is current manager Brandon Hyde has been slowly but surely losing the clubhouse throughout the beginning of the season, calling out players publicly for mistakes like Tyler O'Neill and questionable lineups on a daily basis and questionable managerial decisions have all led to the now loud murmurs about his job security moving forward.
Ooh, okay.
Wow.
And
Talk, talk about a major nosedive.
yeah, talk about temperature turning up in the clubhouse.
Oh my God. And to
Yeah.
think the Orioles were one of the best teams in baseball not even a year ago.
All right. Exactly. And then on top of it, just thinking about some of the other news that's happened. Of course, Crotchet ended up. He would have had a scoreless game, except for the fact that Cassis ends up getting a walk-off hit. But how about Kodai Senga? Man, he's had a really good scoreless streak.
I think the Mets in general have the lowest ERA of any pitching staff in all of baseball.
Yeah, they're off to a great start this year, and just thinking about it, it's like he 4 starts in, throwing 5 2/3 innings, gets a 3-0 win. His ERA is at .79.
That is damn impressive.
That's
And I think,
insanely good.
and if I'm not mistaken, Griffin Canning is in the same category.
Yeah, I mean, and actually no, Chris Bassett at .77. So
Huh.
so basically, Senga's number 2 in the league right now.
I mean, that's not terrible per se.
Oh, that's really good though. So just thinking about that, but it is just absolutely crazy. And then apparently against St. Louis, I mean, the big thing that Senga ended up using was the 4-seamer, and he used the ghost of a forkball that we all know and love. So yeah, those 2 pitches were 74% of everything he threw.
There you go.
So
And and unfortunately, there was a big piece of news that came out recently about the whole story about Tyler Skaggs, the pitcher for the Angels,
mhm.
who died of a drug overdose a
Yeah.
few years ago. Yeah, it turns out the Angels are now supporting and funding the legal defense team of their former employee who was sent to prison over the 2019 death of former Angels pitcher Tyler Skaggs. Apparently, that's what the family's lawyers allege. And a wrongful death trial brought by the Skaggs family against the Angels is approaching, and the strategy by the team, according to the Athletic, Sam Blum writes, it appears to be a support of ex-employee Eric Kay's argument for his own vindication, and in doing so will help their own defense. And Kay was sentenced to 22 years in prison for providing Skaggs with the drugs that ended his life, but has been looking to appeal for legal exoneration.
Oh boy, that's gonna get ugly very quickly.
So not only does Artie Moreno support drug addiction, but he also supports, people, that gave out painkillers to begin with.
Yeah, not smart.
No, it's not. And the Angels are, and the thing I hate about Artie Moreno is that he acts like he's Jerry Jones. Okay,
Mhm.
and the
Yeah.
guy, like, all you have to do is just look at his track record within the last 15 years since he's been the owner of the LA Angels,
Mhm.
and he has overstepped every GM he's ever brought in, and the one thing about Artie Moreno is that he's willing to spend money, but he
Mhm.
spends it wrongfully. Like, how
Right.
many free agents have the Angels have had that have blown up in their face? Anthony Rendon is definitely the most famous one.
Yeah. Yeah. Then of course Shohei Ohtani walks.
Otani walks. Trout is always hurt. They have no pitching.
Right.
Josh Hamilton was in a very similar situation. He was addicted to
Mhm.
drugs, and the Angels supported his bullshit. And then Albert Pujols, who at the time was the biggest
Mhm.
contract given to a player in baseball.
Yeah.
And then you had what was that other guy? Not Hamilton. Not Rendon. They gave money to Joe Madden to be the manager. I mean, there was a lot that the Angels did. Artie Moreno literally wants to be the Dodgers. And here's
Right.
the guy is fucking delusional. It's so bad that local politicians in Anaheim, mind you, because that's where they play. I think it's the mayor or the counselor or the governor. I don't know. It's definitely not Gavin Newsom, but the mayor of Anaheim is suggesting, please change the name to the Anaheim Angels. You're not in LA. You are
Right.
not in Los Angeles. You are the second half or the second fiddle to the Dodgers at this point. You are their bitch.
Yeah, exactly. And it's about to get worse for the Angels too, because apparently Angels Stadium, the state now has significant concerns about its maintenance and the lack of ability to inspect the stadium under the lease agreement with the Angels. So apparently, the state recently audited the Anaheim Angels, and it revealed that Anaheim, or the city of Anaheim, doesn't even know the physical condition of the stadium, which could require hundreds of millions of dollars in repairs. And it also, the lease agreement limits Anaheim's revenue from the publicly owned stadium and restricts the city's ability to audit the team's spending on repairs or improvements. So this actually came out just in the last couple days, but the state audit found that the lease agreement doesn't give Anaheim the right to inspect the stadium, which hinders the city's ability to make sure it's properly maintained. So nobody knows whether the stadium's up to code or not. Then, on top of it, the lease agreement limits how much revenue Anaheim can make from the stadium, including ticket sales and parking. Okay, well, that's the city's fuck up on that, because they could have stipulated that. Then there's unclear maintenance obligations, where the city and the Angels disagree on who is responsible for what maintenance needs to be done, and the lease doesn't clearly define those responsibilities. Well, then again, the city fucked up on that, because they should have defined that in the first place. Then there's disputes on over how much the city owes the Angels for spending on stadium improvements and whether the city will have to pay for excess spending, according to a recent audit. Again, city didn't do their due diligence. Deferred maintenance. The stadium is aging and could require significant investment to bring it up to being a first-class standard. Well, we've all known that for a long time.
Well, if it makes... Sorry, go ahead.
And the last thing they mentioned, lack of oversight. So the California state auditors are recommending that Anaheim should have the right to inspect the stadium regularly, and that future lease agreements should specify maintenance responsibilities and inspection requirements.
And you know what's crazy about this too? Do you know how old this stadium is?
Yeah, it's ancient.
Yeah. You want to know an estimate number?
Yeah, I was going to say it's probably in the 1960s.
Exactly. It's so the day, okay, it broke ground on August 31st of 1964. Ready? Stay with me. The building itself broke ground in 64 in August. It opens in April of 1966.
Okay.
And that's including renovations. So it went through a 30 plus years of renovation, which then opened on April 1st of 1998. That's currently this stadium.
Okay, so the most recent was done over 30 years ago, or close to 30 years ago at this point.
And the name, the big A, is for obvious reasons.
Right. So basically, Anaheim screwed up their part of the contract. The Angels weren't necessarily forthcoming about stuff, and they're not being forthcoming about it. So basically, what that means is nobody knows technically how much work the stadium's going to need. My thought is it probably is going to need a lot of work because, hello, California is earthquake country.
Yeah, and you know what too? I wouldn't be surprised either if the Angels are in consideration of relocation.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, hey, Orlando wants a team, Nashville wants a team, Salt Lake City wants a team.
The A's just moved from Oakland to Sacramento for now, and going into Las Vegas.
And eventually move to Vegas. Yeah, so it's a big thing. And apparently, and one thing the audit did find, the Angels overpaid $95,000 worth of ticket revenue to the city of Anaheim in 2021.
Oh, okay. That probably explains why Artie Moreno is such a prick. Because that's probably why he was able to get billions, if not billions of dollars in free agents and just throwing a shitload of money at, a bunch of veterans that, didn't live up to the hype. Like I was saying, Albert Pujols, Josh Hamilton, Anthony Rendon, all these guys. The Angels want to be like the Dodgers. But the issue is they're not the Dodgers. The Dodgers actually know how to build a World Series contender.
They do. And they're not afraid to spend.
And the last time the Angels were anywhere relevant aside from Otani was when they drafted Mike Trout. And Mike Trout at that time was the best player in baseball.
Right.
Now he's just a former shell of what he was.
Yeah, heard all the time.
Yeah, heard all the time. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they're the first ever MLB team you saw in person.
They are. Before Otani decided to walk and go across town to the Dodgers.
Yeah, you were supposed to see Mike Trout also, but he got hurt a couple of days before you came down.
Yeah,
So
and
it's like,
actually,
fuck.
technically, I don't even think we were supposed to see Otani because of the fact that he had that injury.
He did, and then he came back, and then it was just like,
as a
whoa, that
DH.
changed everything.
Yeah, and he busted out the brand new ribbon board at City Field that day, too. Blacked out a panel.
God damn, like really.
Yeah, with the foul ball to right.
Yeah, and you know what? The team itself, they're not very good, okay? Actually, I take that back. The Angels, as of this recording, it's April 19th.
Mhm.
As of that now, in the AL West, the Rangers are 13-8.
Mhm.
That's above 500.
Yep.
The Angels are 10-9 at just 500.
Right.
Then you have the Mariners, who are 11-10, just one game below
Just barely
500.
over. Yeah.
And then you have the Athletics, who are one game below 500. Then you have the Astros.
Mm-hmm.
Touche.
Yeah. Exactly.
So really, the Rangers are the best team in that division.
Yeah, who would have thought that?
I didn't.
Yeah, me either.
I didn't.
Me either.
I'll just say that.
Yeah.
But I think it's crazy how the Angels are all of a sudden right now are the second best team in their division. Everybody's on a win streak, but I'm not expecting this to last very long.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and Houston's at 10-10, so it's just crazy. But I will say, at least in the NL East, the Mets are at 14-7, and the Phillies are right behind at 13-8. But after that, the rest of the division is a shit show because Miami's at 8-12, Washington's at 8-12, and who would have thought the Braves would be at 6-13?
Oh God. I have a better one.
Yikes.
Who would have thought the Rockies, who are still a dog shithole, be 3-16?
Yeah, that's the worst record in all of baseball right now. That's even worse than the Chicago White Sox at 4-16.
How are the White Sox better than the Rockies?
Your guess is as good as mine, dude.
And to think this is a team that has German Marquez on their team. German
Yeah.
Marquez.
Yeah. That's just awful. That's just awful, dude.
Oh, you want to talk about the Rockies? I actually have something on the Rockies.
Yeah.
Real quick. And the Colorado Rockies on Thursday made an announcement where they have relieved hitting coach Hensley Mullins of his duties. He's been fired by the Rockies. And a special assistant to the GM, Clint Hartle, has been now named the hitting coach for the remainder of the season.
Wow.
Yeah, so this shitbag was the former manager of the Pirates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, crazy. But there is a good thing, though, and I will say, and the Mets are actually among the top teams in the league at one thing in the differential. Take a guess at what the differential is right now for the Mets.
The ERA.
Well, yeah, overall differential is at plus 27.
That's not bad.
Yeah, best one right now is the Cubs at plus 42. But you want to take a guess at who's the absolute worst in the league right now
Who?
when it comes to that? Colorado, minus 52.
Jesus Christ. Are you surprised?
Nope.
Are you surprised? It's the fucking Rockies.
No, yeah, exactly. And even funnier, the Chicago White Sox are only at minus 30.
The Rockies are not even that good. And yet they have no
No.
prospects. And you know what, too? You know what also bit them in the ass? Was that trade a few years ago with Nolan Arenado, where they didn't even get any
Yeah.
big name prospects. They just got a bunch of random dudes off the streets that were considered homeless, and they all just got a glove and the bat and just said, fuck it, go play professional baseball.
Exactly. But no, it's crazy. But other than that, I mean, right now, like if we're looking at the divisions, I mean, seriously, nothing in the AL is worth looking at. And then when you look at the NL, I mean, the NL West is arguably the best division in baseball right now because, I mean, you have every single team over 500 except for Colorado. I mean, San Diego's at 15-6, LA's at 15-7, San Fran is 13-7, the Diamondbacks are 12-9, and then you have the Rockies at 3-16.
Yeah, and tell me if this sounds anything peculiar. Ready? This is the Rockies lineup. Scott Alexander, Jake Bird, Angel Chavilli, Chase Dolander, Ryan Feltner, Kyle Freeland, Seth Halverson, Jimmy Herget, Tyler Kinley, German Marquez, the best player on the team, Luis Peralta, Antonio Zantazla, Victor Vodnik. That's all of the Rockies pitchers.
It's a crap roster.
It is a crap roster. Their catchers are no better. Braxton Fulford, Hunter Goodman, Jacob Stallings.
Yeah, it's pathetic. I mean, their roster is absolute crap right now, except for German Marquez.
Yeah, and you know what, too? German Marquez is a free agent.
Yeah, he's going to walk.
Yeah, no. I take that back. He's going to get traded.
Yeah, and they'll piss away the draft picks.
Watch him go to the Mets.
Ooh, that would be nice.
I know. I'm calling a prediction early. I don't do that normally. It's either going to be Sandy Alcantara or it's going to be German Marquez. One of the two will be in the orange and blue come July.
Hey, I'd be all up for it.
Just throwing it out there, the Rockies are complete shit.
Yep.
And you know what? My buddy Ricky's a Rockies fan.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he is.
What bastard.
Yeah, really. No surprise. But I was gonna say, that being said, I know you took the show for about a good 10 minutes or so, and then sorry about the getting interrupted.
Because you wouldn't get off the fucking phone, so that way we could just get it over with this.
Trying to.
Thing.
Trying to.
Try to.
And then she's like, nah, in some cases. So, but it is what it is, though. But I was gonna say, before we wrap up, though, were there any other things you wanted to throw in?
No, that's it. I am exhausted from talking.
Right. And I know your Road to 32 will be coming out soon, too, because you're going to be making that trip back to Seattle for round 2, so.
Yep, and in a few weeks, what do you think I'm going to say next?
Mm-hmm. And you'll be in Alaska, so I know you'll be up there.
No, that's not what I was going to say.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say was Road to 32 is going to be coming up where we make our decision for the big one.
Yeah.
2 years ago was Cincinnati. Last year was Seattle.
Yep.
And this year it's going to be whoever we decide
Wherever
on.
we decide to go. So it'll be an interesting thing there, and we'll have that coming up. Obviously, next week we're going to stream the draft, so we will have that going on. And then, of course, our friends at Nickel City Crew, welcome back. They just started season 5 2 weeks ago, so we've been streaming them on our page again. So show Rob and DT some love there. They have some good football content out on Fridays of every week, so check that out. But otherwise, I don't have much else to say tonight. So, of course, happy Easter to everyone who celebrates it. Thanks again for joining us as usual. And yeah, we're winding down. It's we don't have too many weeks left before we go on hiatus for the summer. So, so with that being said, thanks for joining us again. Thanks for getting us to 10,000 views on the YouTube as well. We appreciate that. And of course, Spotify is there if you want to see some older stuff and take it on the go. But in the meantime, until next week, take care of yourselves and each other, and